And it's upside down. Hello, Obooters from around the world. My name is Kais, and I'm 11 years old, and I live in Montreal, Canada. Welcome to our Oboot Zoom session, where me and my co-host Tala, who is 11 years old and lives in Toronto, will be interviewing our guest changemaker Rudayna. Rudayna lives in the Hague in Netherlands. She is the founder of Dhaky, a charity that ensures refugee education through e-learning. They collect donations of secondhand devices, fix them, and load them with educational content that is accessible both online and offline. Rudayna's work contributes to several sustainable development goals, but more particularly number 4, quality education. Tala will be asking questions to Rudayna about her background, her journey, her work, her skills, and her impact. We hope that you will enjoy this session. I will now hand it over to Tala to start the interview.
Good morning. Rudayna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you, first of all, Tala and Kais, for having me here. My name is Rudayna Abdo, and as Kais said, I am living in the Netherlands, in The Hague, and I'm from many different places, lots of different places and identities, so I'll keep it simple.
So, to start, from when you were little, what kind of sports did you play while you were growing up?
I ran, so I was on the cross-country team, even though I wasn't a very good runner back then, but I persisted and I would go running. I would run a lot. I was in a British school, so we had netball, and I was on the netball team. Netball is similar to basketball, but a lot gentler, and there's no contact between people. There's a 3-foot rule, so you can't come beyond 3 feet between players, and there isn't a backboard to the hoop. So I played that, and then we also started playing basketball, and I was on the basketball team, and we would play basketball against the American school, and then we go play netball against the British school, and we'd get fouled all the time because basketball is a rougher game, is a more active game. So yeah, these were my 3 sports in growing up.
So were there any people that had a big impact on you while growing up?
Yeah, I have 2 cousins who had, my cousins actually, a lot of cousins, but I'm going to pick 2 in particular, or 2 specific cases. One was my cousin Huda, and she's 7 years older than me actually. And when I was in middle school, I think, I would trail her everywhere. And she is an artist, so she would go to the art. She had a very good relationship with the art teacher. She was a really good art student. So the art teacher would open up the art room on Saturdays to whoever wanted to come in. And usually it was the high schoolers. But since I was always shadowing her, I'd drag along, and I go for hours with her to the art room and sit and draw and sketch. And that's when I started my love for art, which later followed me a little bit into my career. So yeah, that was somebody who was a big influence on me, I'd say, growing up.
So right now, what or who motivates you?
What motivates me? I would doing work that's doing good. And I know lots of people talk about that, social good, impact work, but we can be so deliberate in what we do, or we can just do work because it's what lands in our laps, it's the job that we get. So for me, I'm becoming much more intentional in the kind of work that I'm doing, and I'm working right now with education and children, which is not what I studied to do, which is not what my whole career was about. But it relates to what was happening in the Middle East as well, with wars and refugees. And I just felt I had to do something about this other than just watch the news and have my heart broken. So motivates me is working in areas of hope, working in areas that are working towards positive outcome to people, to the environment, to the planet that we live on, because we've really treated it so badly. and we need to do something about that.
Yeah. So do you have any hobbies outside of your work?
Mhm. Do I have a life outside of my work? No. My hobbies, well, I still run. So I run a lot. That's still something that is embedded into my schedule, almost daily schedule. Hobbies, I love to travel, and I know that's not very good for the carbon footprint part, but I do love to travel. I love to visit new countries, new places, new food, new experiences. So I consider travel to be part of my education. So now that we're in COVID lockdown mode or limited travel, it's different, obviously. And since we are in COVID lockdown mode, I've been cooking more and doing a lot of stuff with baking. I started this starter because there was no yeast. And now my family has to put up with all kinds of baked things that I make, most of which are not very good, but I have fun experimenting, and I do not follow recipes, and that kind of drives my kids crazy, but I don't follow recipes. I make up my own. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
So where do you usually work before COVID and right now during COVID?
Actually, for me, there was no change, no difference. I've been working remotely from my home, predominantly from my home, for the last almost 5 years, 4 or 5 years. I was working in office environments before then, and since I started Dhaky, I've been home-based. I've done a little bit of co-working space where at one point I felt I had to see adult humans at some point. So I was doing a little bit of one day a week of a co-working space, which was nice. It was a nice change, but I've been working from home, and I've moved into a room that's very close to, you can see there's a lot of light on me now because I'm in a room that's right next to the window that's south facing. And to me, that makes a huge difference to have natural light, especially in the northern climate that I live in now. So post COVID has been the same for me.
So how do you create a good workspace for yourself since you work at home?
Yeah, well, my needs are actually quite simple. I just need a space for my laptop. Right now I'm on a very small camping table, believe it or not, because it fits nicely next to the window, and I'm in a comfortable low chair, and my legs hang comfortably, so they don't hit the knee at the wrong place. So this is part of the ergonomic setup, and I put this thing here it's like this storage unit that is between me and the door, so that if people do barge in by mistake and open the door, I still feel like I have my cocoon in here. I've got my own secluded space, and it's my laptop. That's my office, and I unplug it and take it to different parts of the house in the evenings because I tend to work all the time. So the office moves along with me. But I have a space that's with a door, and the family generally knows that if the door is closed, they shouldn't come barging in. And they generally know that they shouldn't be making loud noises if I'm on a call. Doesn't always work, but sometimes.
So what is your favorite part of living in The Hague?
Nature. It's absolutely beautiful from a nature perspective. And the way they do the city planning, city development. I'm an urban planner by profession, so this is what I studied, and this is what my career was in. So I guess I'm sensitive to how communities are built and such. So here in The Hague, in the Netherlands, actually all across the Netherlands, because of the way the country, it's Netherlands, lower lands is what it is. So I think it's 40% of the country is underwater, under sea level. So there are a lot of canals, and these canals help with flood mitigation so that you don't have flooding happening in the country. And these canals mean that there's these beautiful water bodies that are in every neighborhood. When I go on my run, I'm running along water almost the entire time. So we just passed spring a couple of months ago, and we saw baby swans, baby geese, baby ducks, baby There were lambs, sheep, and my husband even saw a cow being born, and that's just around the corner from our house. And this is all while being in the city. So you have all of this nature in the city with so much greenery, and it's so lush. And just a kilometer and a half away from us is the coastline, and the Dutch coastline is the Netherlands is on the water. So you have a massive coastline that runs along the entire country, and it's a very wide beach with dunes, generally very windy, but it's also very beautiful. So all of this is at my doorstep, and I think it's beautiful. And I have to add the other thing on the mobility side, which is really, every time I'm doing it, which is all the time, it hits me just how fortunate we are, which is biking. We bike everywhere. So we have more bikes than people in the house, I think. A double, maybe 2-to-1 ratio almost. And we got rid of our car. We don't even have a car because we don't use a car. So we get around purely on our bikes if it's within our town, or if we need to go to another town or another city, we take the train. So I love that. And it was the best thing when we gave up the car. I don't miss it for 1 minute. So yeah, these are the advantages of living in the Netherlands.
Yeah. So when you made Dhaky, what did you want to accomplish?
When I was very upset with what was going on, when I started Dhaky, this was when the Syrian refugee crisis was everywhere. I mean, it was in the news. You could not escape it, what was happening, and with the Arab Spring, and just so much disruption, so much violence, so much displacement happening in the Middle East, in the region where I come from. And as a result, people were being displaced, settling in places, and children were losing out on their education. They weren't going to school. And to me, that was just a wrong that had to be righted. It cannot be. So my hope was and not only that there's that children need to be educated, but here we are speaking on this platform in a digital way. Here we are in a COVID lockdown where we can't go to school. We haven't been going to schools. We haven't been going to work, but we're able to continue working. We're able to continue studying because we've got technology to help us to do that. And we're communicating across 3 different cities right now, 2 different countries. And we can do that because we've got the technology, we've got the connectivity. Well, 46% of the planet doesn't have connectivity. So there's a huge divide in so many ways, and the technology and education are 2 of those divides. And I think technology can really help with the education. And I wanted to do something about that. I wanted to see how we can use technology to help with the education of children who are missing out on their education entirely. And if they miss out on their education, they've lost their future. They've missed out on opportunities for their future, and that's not right. So that's what motivated me to start Dhaky.
So you said that you were helping refugees. What kind of refugees are you helping?
We're working most of our work is in Lebanon. It's all in the Middle East, mostly in Lebanon, a little bit in Jordan, and we're going to hopefully start soon in Palestine. And it's actually not just refugees, it's predominantly refugees and predominantly Syrian refugees. There are some Palestinian refugees that we help, but it's also a lot of Lebanese vulnerable communities as well. Lebanese children who don't have the tools, who don't have access, or who don't have digital and education. So it's those who need the help the most are those where we're stepping in.
So what is the hardest thing that you have to do in your job?
The hardest thing is there are different challenges at different times. So right now, what we do, the basis of what we do is that we get laptops that, as Qais said earlier, we get laptops from organizations like companies and universities that are no longer using their laptops, but they're still good. So there's still laptops that function well, but they're no longer using them. So they donate them to us, we do stuff to them, and then we put a lot of stuff on them, educational content, educational games, software programs, and then we get them to the organizations and the kids who who are going to be using technology probably for the first time. So right now, our biggest challenge, the hardest thing, is getting the thousands of laptops that we need. So, and now with COVID-19 going on and everybody being locked up, there's a lot of demand for laptops everywhere in the world. So it's even harder to get them now. But, you know, a hard challenge never stopped me before. So we're working hard to get laptops, but this is our biggest challenge.
Yeah. So is Dhaky a nonprofit organization?
Yes, Dhaky is a nonprofit organization, which means that any money that we make, if there was to be excess money that we make, which at this point there isn't, but if there were to be excess money, it doesn't go into our pockets as earnings, it goes back into the organization.
So why did you decide to make Dhaky a nonprofit organization?
Because I think because of the way that we operate, because of the mission that we are working with refugees and vulnerable communities, and we get a lot of donations and we get support from other companies. It's not just donations, we get support from companies who are helping us on the tech side and on the design side and on the digital side, in many ways on the shipping side. So they wouldn't be so willing to do that if an organization isn't doing it for social good as a nonprofit. It's better to be operating in this field as a nonprofit organization because of the mission.
So since you said that all of your money doesn't go, like all of your extra money doesn't go to you, how are you making money?
Well, I very personally am making no money, but I have a team that's making making money, and we've got two ways of making money. The laptops that we get, and we put a lot of content on them, from educational content like things from National Geographic and things from Oxford University Press, and a lot of content in Arabic, and there's a lot of work that goes into putting it there. So we need to pay people to put that content there. So when we first, at the very beginning, we were giving the laptops away, but we can't survive that way. We cannot be cash negative, which means that it costs us more to operate it than it does to exist. So we charge a small fee for each laptop that goes. So that's one way of making money. And the more laptops that we have, the more devices that are out there, the more revenue that we'll get, that will be able to sustain us. And the other way is that we get grants and gifts. So organizations have given us money because of the work that we do, and individuals and corporations have also given us some money to allow us to do the work that we do.
So right now, are you working with a team or are you working independently?
No, I've got a team. We've got quite a big team. So there are people who are on staff, which means that they're there either full-time or part-time, but they're there continuously. We have a lot of volunteers who are also there, but in smaller capacity, or they come and they go. This summer, we actually have 6 university interns, which means there are 6 students in different universities around the world who are working with us for 2 months full-time. And we have a board of advisors, and they also help, and a few consultants. So actually, if you count all of us up, I think we're over 20. We're between 20, 25 people between staff and volunteers.
Yeah. So which university did you go to?
As an undergraduate, I went to MIT and I studied architecture. And for graduate school, I went to McGill University and I studied urban planning. And then my career after that was in urban planning until I started Dhaky. But I'm still an urban planner. That's still my DNA.
So how much do you think you have helped by creating Dhaky?
Yeah, I think we've helped. I think we've made quite a difference, and we measure the help that we do with surveys that we conduct, and with interviews, and with going in the field. And our estimate, we think that it's about 9,000 children who have touched a Dhaky laptop, who have had some kind of access to a Dhaky laptop. since we started. And we hope to reach many more, tens or hundreds of thousands of children, but we also want to do it in a quality way, because we spend a lot of time and effort in getting those laptops ready and putting the content on them, and how the user interface is what it's called. So how you navigate those computers.
So right now, is there anybody that keeps you motivated and inspires you to keep doing your work?
Yeah, I think I would say a big inspiration is somebody that stems from my childhood. And I think that's probably what also got me started into thinking about the humanitarian world in the first place. She's deceased now, she's passed away, but she is the daughter of a woman who started in 1940, way before my parents, even my mom was born actually. She started an organization in Palestine, in Jerusalem, called the Four Homes of Mercy. And the way she started it is that her friend, I think, or neighbor, had a child with disabilities, with severe disability, and she passed away, and she asked this woman to take care of her child. And that's what started her on a mission of helping children and who were had difficulties. And she started a home called the Four Homes of Mercy, and that organization was very close. I was exposed to it growing up because it's close to the family, and I met the daughter of the founder, who then ran it for decades. And she was such an inspiration for me from when I was a child and growing up, about how gentle she was, how giving she was, how much of herself she gave her entire life on a mission to help. It's not just children, it's actually children to adults who had disability and who had no opportunity. They wouldn't have been cared for had it not been for her organization stepping in. So her name was Henriette Siksik, and I would say that she's probably my biggest inspiration.
That's amazing. Yeah.
She was an incredible woman.
Kais, is there anything you want to add?
No, but yeah, I have one last question. So before we end our interview, one last question. Do you have any advice for young people who would like to be change makers?
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid. First of all, if you've got ideas, if you've got an idea, put it out there, work on it, and don't give up on it. So if something's going to be hard, or it's going to not go as you planned, don't let that be the stopping point. Keep pushing beyond that and see where that will take you. And it may take you somewhere entirely different. So allow yourself to be flexible, but at the same time, if it feels that this is really what I want to do, no, I'm just convinced that this is going to work, keep at it. Don't give up just because things get difficult. So act, and then don't give up, and work collaboratively with others. I think there's a lot in the way, you probably in your school systems, I think school systems in general, there's just so much competition out there that who's going to get the award, who gets the top prize, who gets a great grade. And this is how we've all been geared towards doing things. And I really wish that we would move away from that. I wish that we would move towards much more of a collaboration without this cutthroat competitiveness that happens. So go after your gut, work hard, and collaborate.
All right. Thank you, Rudayna, and thank you, Tala, for the great discussion and for all the things we learned today. Thank you, Obooters, for listening to this interview. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can hear about upcoming interviews with other changemakers. Please also tell your friends about Oboot. And last but not least, don't forget to take our quiz on www.oboot.co in order to collect your Oboot badge.
Thank you.
That's it.